I built a railroad, I made it run, made it race against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once I built a tower.
In the 1920s, the radio had brought in the jazz age, the exuberant music of the 1920s, a decade of joy and excess. But in the 1930s, the radio brought a different sound into people's homes. In the 1930s, people were suffering through the Great Depression. The stock market crash of 1929 had finally burst the bubble of this expanding economy. Suddenly, the economy was spiraling out of control. People were having hard times. Businesses were having hard times. As businesses had to lay off workers and cut costs, workers who were out of jobs couldn't spend the money that they once did on consumer products, which meant that businesses cut back even further, which meant more people lost their jobs, and what was once an expanding bubble was suddenly collapsing on itself. During the 1930s, people are going to be desperate. They're going to be looking to the government for support. President Hoover, who had seemed so right to be the man to lead us into another decade of prosperity, suddenly his own ideals betray him. He truly believed in hard work, people pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps, and truly believed in the capitalist idea that, laissez-faire economics, let the economy right itself. And so he's not going to be willing to intervene, to try to do something. Instead, he thinks the business cycle will fix itself. Instead of giving handouts to those that are in need and trying to do something, he thinks that that would undermine the morals of society. And so he's, based on his principles, going to do nothing. Or practically nothing, and the people are going to resent that, and they're going to look for a new leader. The new leader that they find in FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is going to rise to the challenge of the decade. And this medium, radio, becomes one of his tools to try to encourage the nation. Here's a little bit of one of his speeches.
This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror.
He used the radio. He used his words through fireside chats to encourage Americans, to let them know that the only thing they had to fear was fear itself. Don't be afraid. Don't lose hope. Things are going to get better. And he sets about trying to do that with his plan called the New Deal. In the New Deal, he follows the 3 R's: relief, recovery, and reform. First of all, unlike Hoover's government, there must be relief. There must be help for those that are hurting. Government programs to meet the needs of the people. Secondly, there must be recovery. We've got to fix the economy. And then once the economy is fixed, once things are righted, then we'll make the reforms that are needed to prevent this from ever happening again. And so during Roosevelt's term of office, his first term, in which a new, very strongly Democratic Congress comes in, they go through what's called the 100 days, 100 days of legislation where many new programs, which you're going to read about, are passed to try to ease the sufferings of America and to fix the economy. Some of his programs were very successful, and if they didn't fix the economy, they at least gave people hope, created jobs, created work for people. Others of his ideas didn't work so well, but at least he was doing something. And so as you look at this unit, you're going to see FDR and the U.S. government trying to find answers to this Great Depression. You're going to see how the people struggled through this decade. Ultimately, this decade will come to a close. with a world war on the horizon. And really it's going to be that world war and the need for production that it creates that will really pull us out of this depression. But the things that the government and Roosevelt tried to do, the way America suffered through this decade, changed America and made a lasting impression. So as you study this unit, look for the ways that the changes of the 1930s still affect us today in our own era.